Hi everyone, I'm Ashley Lateki Ellenboss, and on my YouTube channel, I wanted to just send a quick message to um, just talk about a few things that are on my mind and different ways of connecting to the plants in this particular time in human history. And I've been thinking a lot lately about plants as friends. I think we often consider plants to be something that we use, right? What does this plant do? How do I use this plant? However, lately, with the current global circumstances, I've been thinking instead of, what is this plant for? I've been thinking, who is this plant and what maybe have I overlooked? And in a time of social isolation, we need more friends and we need more contact and more engagement. And while the internet is amazing as it is, there's still a gap in presence that exists. And so for me, and I think my two young girls, we've been finding that time outside in nature has been so helpful in trying to create tangible relationships with the natural world. And Walt Whitman said, sort of to paraphrase a quote from one of his poems, he said, when all other things are exhausted, nature remains. And so this idea that, we've maybe reached the peak of a mountain, or we've reached our professional goals, or we got that house, or whatever it is that we were aiming towards. There's sort of a sense now that we can look back and see all the things that we've accomplished, but when we've exhausted all of those things, then what's left to do? And I think a lot of spiritual seekers, they retreat back into nature. That's where they go, when the material world has not given them what they were looking for, which is happiness and peace. They retreat to nature and they get quiet and they listen. So I think this time of year, as spring is coming and everything is awakening, we can do the same thing. We can reflect on maybe the milestones that we've reached. Did they really satisfy us? And if not, then can we turn to nature for guidance and for support? So a few plants that I've really been loving and spending time with over the last month of our mandatory, stay-at-home orders here in Maryland is I've been spending a lot of time with reishi mushroom. And to me, this plant, well, it's actually not a plant, this fungi, this mushroom has such a great harmonizing quality, and it builds up shen, which is the brightness of the spirit that sparkles in the eyes. And so, like babies often have that shen, that bright glow in their eyes. So in a time where things are kind of subdued and the feeling is a little bit heavy, reishi really lifts the spirits, and it also does a really good job at fortifying our inner reserves, specifically through the adrenals. And the adrenals are the little hat-shaped glands that sit on top of the kidneys, which help regulate stress response. And for those of us that have maybe gotten out of our regular patterns of sleep and waking and exercise, our adrenals can get taxed in that way. And so I've been taking reishi every day, a teaspoon of the cooked powder, and mixing it into like hot cocoa or my dandelion tea blends, and just really feeling the heavy fortifying adaptogenic qualities of that plant, and also feeling the uplifting sort of spark that it reinvigorates. And as a fungi, it's kind of interesting because it feeds off of dead matter, right? It feeds off of decay. And that's kind of how I feel like, it's kind of what I feel like a lot of us are doing. We're isolated in our homes and we're having to kind of go over the same things, the same patterns, the same foot tracks in our houses and, where we go. And I think that there's also sort of a composting that's happening where, we're starting to kind of burn out or exhaust some of our maybe kind of unhealthy coping strategies. And so they're kind of getting thrown into the compost. And we can think about, mushrooms, they build off of that. They create new life from things that are dead or dying. So by taking a mushroom into our body, especially one that's just has such a long history of use, it's so safe, it's so nourishing, just, can it help us compost? Can it help us break down those old ways and start to find a fresh, new, more supportive, and maybe even more, a way of living that's going to increase longevity. And that's one of the other great qualities of reishi. So reishi has been one mushroom that I've been using a lot. And I've also really been thinking about yarrow, which has always been a favorite of mine. And yarrow it's blooming now. Actually, it's not blooming, but it's growing now. I've seen the little leaves scattered throughout our yard. So yarrow is a protector plant, and one of my teachers, Margie Flint, said it's sort of like the big female goddess protector, and it sort of stands behind women and just sort of like says, like, you've got this, you can do this, take the next step. So I really like that image of sort of a protector goddess or a protector warrior. And I think in these times right now, there's sort of a feeling of being kind of on your own, and there's so much information about what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And if you're a parent, then it's like, what should you do for your kid or not do for your kid? And so all of that information can kind of be overwhelming. So having yarrow as an ally, whether you take it as a tincture every day, you just have the plant nearby and you go and sit with it on a regular basis, you just sort of feel this sense of, one of the key signatures in yarrow is air. It has a lot of these sort of feathery leaves. And the signature of air is about dispersion. And so it really does disperse. It disperses blood. So it increases blood flow. Matthew Wood talks about how it sort of works the gates of the blood. So if your blood flow needs to be maybe more in one area and less in another, this is especially true if you have like headaches and migraines and things like that, that it sort of, it modifies the gates of blood flow. And, right now we are definitely in a time where there's a lot of restrictions and a lot of gates up. And so I think yarrow kind of helps us to come to terms with what is open and what's not open. Like, you can't go through that gate. That gate is locked by, the state park. But look at this gate over here. This gate is open. Go walk, find air, find freedom, find thought, find vision, kind of like the dreaming type of vision. So in that way, I feel like yarrow is just a great ally to have right now to help us feel that strength and support, but also to feel like we have someone to help us navigate through these opened and closed doorways and pathways. It's also just a really good diaphoretic, so it opens up the pores and keeps the heat of the body moving through the circulation more in a balanced way. And that's just really good as a preventative to getting sick. It was sort of an old traditional thought, is that when there's plagues and sicknesses and things like this, you want to keep the pores of the body open so that your immune system can activate, create that heat response, and then move things out. So it's really nice. It's a nice one on a physical level and also on a sort of a more spiritual level. And I think both of those plants have those qualities. So they are both physically and sort of more energetically supportive right now. So I hope that's helpful and just gives you some food for thought. And perhaps you can get outside this week and just make some new friends. Try to find yarrow, use a guidebook. I really like Peterson's Field Guide to Medicinal Herbs by James Duke, and Stephen Foster. That's a really nice one. And they have a new edition that was out maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. So you can use a field guide like that. These days, there's a ton of apps. Picture This is one that a lot of my students use. So just getting outside and trying to find those plants and seeing if you can make new relationships. So I hope that is something to think about, and take care, everyone. And I'll be on more often these days to give you insights and hopefully share more herbal wisdom. All right. Bye.